listening to Peak One Sports.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sports Page on the Peak One Sports Network. I'm Ashton, that's Chris, and Dan. Gonna get you continue on this NFL playoffs going into championship week next week. What's going on, boys?
Not much, man. How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. A lot of games we can talk about here. Chris, are you muted?
Really good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, you
are. No, I'm good. Yeah, it was a lot of good games this weekend. It was
great games.
They were all, they all fit the bill. They all lived up to expectations, my expectations. And I think pretty much everybody won that I thought was gonna win. But it was a lot of games. I was very entertained all weekend.
Yeah, not a lot of huge surprises in the matchups. I don't think many people picked the Packers to upset the Niners or the Texans, even though incredible first, wild card game, but they didn't, pretty much what we expected.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Green Bay kept that game real competitive against the 49ers. I mean, just the 3-point win for San Francisco kind of coming late in the fourth, but really good game. With Houston really being the only kind of like blowout, but I didn't expect Houston to hold up against Baltimore hardly at all, and they didn't.
Yeah.
But the rest of these games were like really good, competitive, hard-fought games.
Mm-hmm.
Like really entertaining. I was actually just saying to Ashton, like honestly, with how competitive these games were and everything, I'm almost glad the Cowboys weren't in there because I can't feel confident that they would have actually put together like competitive games like we were watching all weekend. So
on that note, because we're not going to talk
football
Cowboys really in this episode since they have been eliminated, let me have a clip to play here that can kind of get our Cowboys segment in for the show. Let me see if it'll play here. I can get it. The sound to work.
Stuff like that. Like, what if you were like backpacking through China and you came across like a little Dallas?
You heard the beginning, like it said a little China, a little Italy,
like
little Dallas.
A cowboy hat, all the roads are under construction.
Wait.
Just real authentic, you know what I'm saying? The football team can't win in the playoffs. Just
yeah.
It hurts, man. It hurts.
I thought it was hilarious, though. I mean, what are you gonna do?
Words hurt.
If it was like the day after the Cowboys lost, yeah. But I mean, I was watching it. I did not expect you to take that turn, and I busted out laughing when I heard it. But yeah, it does.
That's
it
pretty
hurts.
good. It's pretty good.
Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube, and hit the follow button if you're listening on your favorite podcasting app. This episode is brought to you by Betalytics. Don't bet with your gut. Check out Betalytics and get help making your picks using their AI algorithms. Be sure to use promo code PEAK1 for 25% when you sign up today. Go to Betalytics.com to start betting smarter. All right. Got the Cowboys out of the way. Let's talk about some of these games this weekend. We're going to start off with the game that did not disappoint. Dan, you said Chiefs-Bills never disappoints.
Never disappoints. What a game.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that game?
Honestly, man, it was everything I wanted it to be. I love watching Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes just match up against each other. These games are like always competitive. They're always pretty close. I feel like they've gone to halftime or overtime rather, a good majority of the time as well. Like they never disappoint, man. I want to say they've played in some crazy weather. They've just had like really great rivalry for years now,
Wow.
And damn it if Pat Mahomes just doesn't seem to be the guy who comes out on top more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, honestly, I don't know if I can say it's because Pat Mahomes is so much greater than Josh Allen or if it's because he's got more talent around him. But I mean, Josh Allen put up a great performance in that game. And I mean, it almost kind of hurts a little to say that, he lost another kind of close one. And especially when it comes down to, kicking a field goal at the end, which honestly, I felt like their tempo was much better before they got into field goal range, and then it seemed like they slowed down and were just kind of like ready to settle for that field goal and go to overtime, which I thought was a terrible idea to do with Josh's overtime record. But
Yeah.
either way, like
Did Jim Nance have to go there though and say wide right? Like
No,
it
I
sounded
mean,
like he had that holstered.
that was tough. Yeah.
I mean, right? He had that one ready.
Yeah.
That was in his back pocket. He was waiting for it.
Yeah, I feel like when you do when you're announcing, different games like this, you're not tied to a specific team, although they call Nance and Romo call a lot of Chiefs games, but you do research and you have like things prepared to say just in case that
Oh, right.
you
No,
know
that was totally written on like his little starter cap, his little
if
note
they
before the
if
game.
if he
like,
kicks it wide right, I'm gonna say wide right. I think that was just like
Definitely.
stabbing, the fan. That'd be like if the Cowboys would have almost beat the Packers and like CeeDee Lamb dropped a close one, they'd been like, "Oh, Dez caught it" or something like that. Like just saying it to crush Cowboys fans' hearts. I mean, it was a great call, but it was uncalled for, I thought.
It was giving me Finkel vibes. You know what I mean? From Ace Ventura. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, Finkel missed it again. Like oh man.
Laces
Honestly,
out,
I even felt for the Bills in that one too, because man, if it just doesn't feel like the Bills every year have like a pretty good competitive team, one that I mean they're usually talking about in the preseason and everything, and even the the 4 years that they had in the '90s of like Super Bowl losses.
Yeah.
If there's any fan base out there besides the Cowboys that has been taking more of a beating than the Bills, I don't know if I can
Probably
really find it.
other than them, it has to be the Bills because I mean it's tough, especially whenever they traded the pick to get Pat Mahomes. So it's like you basically gave them the,
Yeah.
it's just that probably hurts more than anything. And then the fact that he just can't beat them. And I'm not really sure if Pat Mahomes has more talent this year. I feel like they have Stephon Diggs. They were without Gabe Davis, so uh, but this is probably Pat Mahomes' least talented roster, or like as far as
Yeah.
like Isaiah Pacheco, he stepped up and become
He's a hard runner.
Yeah, he's a hard runner, but as far as like just like superstars, how they have the Tyreek Hills, Travis Kelce, they'll have a Juju Smith-Schuster, like like those type of guys, but it's kind of been doing it by committee, this year, and we thought it was a down year, and here they are again. Was it 6 straight AFC Championship games?
Yep.
And I wonder what that's like, as a fan. But man, it's unbelievable to see like somebody so. I don't want to call it like he would have to be in the top 5, top 10 discussion already at this point.
Yes, I was just thinking of this. He is our generation's Dan Marino.
You mean Pat
Yeah.
Mahomes?
Like no, Josh Allen. Sorry,
Oh,
Josh Allen is
okay.
like
Yeah.
our generation's Dan Marino. Like
Yeah.
incredible talent. He's
Almost.
even got guys on his team and everything. But man, if they just don't fall short, like just every damn year.
Whenever they played the Patriots every year, and they will always lose, but they would always have a lot of talent. Philip Rivers, he put up some pretty big numbers. His numbers and Romo's were pretty identical. So he had the numbers. He always ran into Tom Brady or something like that. So I like Josh Allen. He's a great quarterback. He does turn the ball over a lot, but it's tough whenever that it's inevitable. You're gonna play Kansas City, if you're a Buffalo fan, and
Yeah.
it's almost like the Cowboys and the Niners, or the Cowboys and the Packers, or just those type of teams. But it's tough.
Yeah, between seeing Taylor Swift and Jason Kelsey and the Bills fans were crying.
Can we
and
just
throwing
watch football?
Yeah,
they were
snowing. Throwing snowballs at Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey.
Man, I saw
Just
that
a
in
lot
the
in this
fourth,
game.
and honestly, it kind of broke my heart and everything because it's like what a terrible like fan base,
Mm-hmm.
like to just have I because honestly I can't imagine I guess like personally doing it or even I guess like necessarily seeing that kind of thing here in Dallas, but
I
like
think a lot
just
of it
throwing
was
trash down on the sidelines at the players and
I
everything.
think because I know I saw Travis Kelsey and a few players like waving by
they were
which I
kind of
thought,
taunting him and
yeah,
stuff
which
too,
I
and
thought
like
was,
dancing out on him.
Patrick Mahomes
But
didn't do any of that I saw, anyways. I mean,
I mean, they hate him though. I mean, he
yeah,
has to. He has to
yeah,
be
for sure.
like he's always beating them, and it's it's like trying to think of like another hated athlete in Dallas. Like I don't know, like maybe like D Wade and with the Mavs. Like he's probably like that level. Like I don't know. He just you can. He's easy to like, but I feel like as an opposing fan, especially if he's
yeah.
beating. I feel like he's easy to hate his voice, and just the whole Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce dancing all the time. Like it can almost get almost get a little annoying.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
You mentioned Allen not necessarily having a great game, but it's a pretty good game. Most of what he did, a couple of rushing touchdowns. If you just look at his statistics, throwing the ball, it didn't look all that. I mean, a pretty modern quarterback type of stat line. Maybe like Lamar
He would have like
Jackson-esque.
250 or something.
I think like
Like
160 yards
80 rushing.
passing. Yeah, 80 yards rushing and then a couple of
Yeah.
touchdowns on the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, on that last
But
drive, you
there were
have
some
your
big drops.
yeah. Just on that, I mean, just specifically on that last drive, you had a drop.
On that last drive, Josh Allen made more mistakes there because they really should
there
have
were
had
a
that
couple
touchdown
of,
on the
yeah.
crossing route in the back of the end zone, and he just underthrew it
Well,
by
he
like
got hit
the
when he
full
was
10
throwing it
yards.
too. He got hit
I
when he
noticed
was
that too.
throwing
He
it,
got
but
a little bumped, so
mostly that
I'm sure
drop though.
that
Yeah,
played a
there were a
factor.
couple
But
of passes that should have been picked off as well.
Oh yeah.
A
yeah,
lot of
there were
mistakes all
definitely.
around on the Bills,
Definitely.
and then I mean Tyler Bass. I mean I can't remember how long the field goal was, but it wasn't.
Like 44 yards, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah, it wasn't.
terrible, and it looked like the wind caught it, but then you see the flags on the goalpost. Didn't look like the wind was really blowing up. Maybe it was just the
They said that
way the stadium was made.
before the game, they said it was the kickers were having difficulty kicking from like 50 yards. So,
Okay.
it's it. I don't know.
Because it
That was
looked good, and at the last second, it just turned
yeah.
right.
It did. It kept bending, man, and it just faded away.
Yeah, and in those
What a
situations, I
heartbreaker.
always say, I mean, all that guaranteed was overtime. That doesn't mean anything. It didn't mean he lost you the game.
It's true.
True.
They've had the chance.
But
Yeah,
it felt like at that point the Bills like strategy was willing to settle for that field goal and go to overtime. I don't know, like,
I mean, they had the
don't get me wrong,
ball
'cause
for the
they
last
had
like
a few
7
incomplete
minutes.
passes.
They had the
Yeah,
ball
they
forever.
crushed the clock on that last possession when they managed to get it back. Which they got all that time and the ball back after that touchback fumble, which is a whole other conversation because I think that's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But that actually gave them the opportunity to try and get the tie or win. And in all honesty, it just felt like to me the way they moved down the first half of the field in like that first 4 minutes and kind of getting to inside the 50, it felt like they had a rhythm going, and then I don't know, it just kind of came apart for them, and they got less aggressive about trying to move downfield, and suddenly it felt like it was about settling for that field goal inside the 2-minute warning, and then he missed, and I mean that's all she wrote. So
Yeah, before we move on, let's talk about that fumble touchback. And like what alternative would you have for it? Because I know like when you fumble the ball and it maybe roll up 10 yards and go out of bounds, they bring the ball back to where you lost it. Do you think something similar should happen in that case, where if he fumbles it 2 or 1 yard line, then it rolls out the back of the end zone, he just gets it back at the 1 or 2?
I kind of like the rule.
It does
It-
seem
what?
legit. I mean, it does.
How?
It's
But
just because like I mean
you're
it's
assuming that if you fumble it and it doesn't go out of the end zone, you're getting the ball back.
yeah, but that I mean
It's just as easy that the other guy could get it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just asking.
I
your
don't
opinion.
personally see the difference between fumbling the ball out of the end zone like that and throwing like an incomplete pass out of the end zone. Like it seems the same.
it's a huge difference though. Like it's
I mean,
like
I understand there's a difference, and like we're talking about like line of scrimmage and whether you've crossed it and everything, but man, it just
because this is like you like scoring a touchdown in general, like that's the biggest prize in football, right? So you have to secure it. So you have to secure the ball. You can't just be all, like I openly admit that, I fumbled the ball trying to reach out through the end zone before. And, that's just is what it is. You have to protect the football. It's a fumble, like you lose
Yeah.
the ball.
But I
Imagine
mean, the ball just has to touch
30 minutes. I
the
mean, like,
goal.
and you
So
I don't know. It's tough. I see where you're coming from. I lean more on the side of you got to control the ball and score the touchdown as opposed to fumbling through the back of the end zone and then okay you still get the ball at the 2 yard line. That's basically rewarding careless football, like in a sense.
yeah, I mean, should we treat it though like you're fumbling it out of bounds just because it happens to be in the end zone? Because the opposite way, if you fumble if you fumble it out of the back of your own end zone, it's a safety regardless.
right.
So
I mean,
you're just treating the out of bounds just because it's by the end zone differently.
there's a part of me that basically wants to call it like just a loss of down and
And redo it.
continue
Like,
the play.
well,
Because then you're not rewarding players for like trying to reach out and touch the goal line with the ball. If they fumble like that, it's like, oh, you lose whatever forward progress you made here, and you lose the
Yeah, I
down.
mean, it's the same. Like you fumble it, it goes out of bounds. It's still your ball. Yeah,
so
Right.
so say you return a kick and someone punches it out when you're at the 5 yard line and it goes to the end zone.
that'd
So
be a
what?
safety. Yeah, that would be a safety under the rules.
Yeah, that's a safety.
So wait, so no, I'm saying like if you're scoring and your end zone is that way and they punch it out from
Oh, I
behind
see. And he comes up from behind you, and he.
out like you're about to score and they punch it through, shouldn't that be a reward for the defense?
Yeah. I mean, but in the same thing, if he punches it out and it just goes out of bounds, should we treat that differently?
Yeah.
But I guess the same thing. You can't just, if he's running down the sideline, you're like, if I can just punch it out and get it out of bounds, it's our ball. You can't do that.
And that's the point where I say you have to possess it, secure ball security. It could I definitely understand because like you're working hard trying to get a touchdown and things may happen. You might even like hit your own teammate and like it's a
Yeah.
fun
No, I mean it's definitely like a risk reward.
high risk, high reward, and that's the risk.
It
So
just seems like there's only,
That's like-
one other option. If you were going to change the rule, would be like just treat it like it goes out of bounds. If you were going to change the rule, not that I'm saying you should or shouldn't, but there's not a lot of, leeway you have. What could you possibly do? It's like, what would you do if you were going to change the rule?
yeah.
Um,
No.
I mean, it's definitely one of those things. I don't necessarily think they'll actually do anything to change it.
yeah.
Just because it doesn't really happen that often,
Yeah, it's rare.
and
It's
the way the
always-
rule stands is competitive.
Yeah. It's always Chiefs and Bills that get the rule changes.
Yeah.
Or,
No,
Yeah,
they did
right.
the overtime playoff rules are different. It's kind of weird.
I
with
mean,
those
Brady
games.
got a lot of rules added while he was a Patriot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's where a lot of hate came for Brady as well. Not only
Yeah.
he's winning all the time, but yeah,
Tuck
they're
rule.
changing rules. Yeah,
that's why you couldn't go low and
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
that
You
was
see
him
some
too.
of Brady's early games. He was getting laid out, and
Right. And this is the same guy that's like, it was so much harder when I played. And I was like, guy, you retired 2 years ago. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
it was
played
harder
that
when we
long, right?
started.
yeah, I can agree with that.
Let's talk Lions and Bucks, Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Not a huge surprise there. I mean, we thought Mayfield was kind of playing out of his mind. He didn't have a terrible game. He had a couple of interceptions, but it just seems like if this isn't the Lions' year, I mean, I don't know what it should look like because it seems like a destined team. Although they just beat the Rams and the Buccaneers so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Really good.
I love Dan Campbell. He's a great coach. This is not really surprising to me. It's only surprising because of the Lions. If they had a different helmet and colors on, I feel like oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just the fact that they went 0-16 and they retired two of the best players ever early, and it's just they just have that stigma on them. But they have a great team. Jared Goff is he's kind of playing up to where people thought he was going to be whenever he first got into the NFL. Um, it was a great game though. I do salute Baker Mayfield and the Bucks for their season though. They could have folded early on in the year, and they bounced back and routed up some pretty good wins and got on the streak. So salute to them.
Yeah, for sure. Especially considering I feel like everybody kind of counted Tampa Bay out
Mhm.
once Brady left. I don't think anybody expected him to do anything special when they brought Mayfield in, and then
Yeah,
the fact that they like made the playoffs, got through a round. I,
he was.
I think they exceeded everybody's expectations, like without a doubt. Like, and I mean, let's be honest too, right? That Detroit game was pretty competitive all the way to the fourth quarter. They were going back and forth quite a bit, and then what was it? I think Detroit got like that turnover and then
Yeah,
scored
Mayfield.
again and,
Yeah, Mayfield
and
threw the
put themselves,
interception.
yeah, because they were up by 14, I think, at that point, and it was pretty well done. But man, Mayfield was, I mean, he was playing pretty good ball, but Detroit's defense was just relentless in his backfield. They were a real menace all day to him.
So, the Lions kneeled the ball on third down with about 30 something seconds left. And Tampa Bay had a timeout that they didn't use, which I guess they could have used it, but I think their explanation was we didn't use it in second and third down. Why they were going to kick a field goal and anyways, but you take the timeout, make them kick, and maybe they miss it. So
Yeah,
it's like they're trying to say, well, it's kind of classless to do that, and
playoffs though.
I've never even thought that you use your timeouts regardless, even if they're kneeling it down. I've seen it. You never know what's going to happen, especially when you kneel it with 30 something seconds and you have now they probably would have ran the clock a little bit more if they were using their timeouts, but still, I mean, it's a strategy. I don't think there's anything wrong, unsportsmanlike or whatever. I mean, I'd be kind of upset. I mean, we would be talking about how McCarthy screwed up the game if he did that. I mean, like, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
No, I agree. This isn't anything like Winston making the call to Rush Williams from a victory formation. Like we're talking about,
Yeah, that's
like having
classless. That's
having
like
real chance at like trying to stay competitive at the very last moments of a playoff game. Like we're not talking about like garbage time of a final season game or something like that.
I
Like
mean, if there's
that
like,
was a classless move.
if it was like
But
first down and like 30 seconds left or something, and they called a timeout, and there's no way you can get the ball back no
right,
matter what, then it kind of pisses some people. I can't remember the coach's name. I mean, it might have been 15 years ago, but it was a Buccaneers coach that would have his defense dive under, like on these kneel pays, and it never really worked. But a couple of times you would knock the quarterback
one of
down.
the Detroit players tried that this year. Actually,
Yeah,
it didn't
and
work
he
out
got
for
a
him
lot.
either.
Yeah,
But
he got a lot of flack where they stopped kneeling the ball. They're like, screw you, we're just gonna run the ball, even though you don't have a chance to come back. We're just gonna rub it in your face. But it's nothing like that. It's like, hey, I'm calling a timeout. We have a chance to win the game. You're gonna have to kick. I mean, go out there and kick the field goal if you have an
They can
issue with it.
block the kick. They can, because I mean, even like in college, whenever I know you guys remember the game. It was Michigan State when they punted.
Yeah.
Down two, and then he fumbled the snap, and they returned it for the win. And it's like,
Or what about? I mean, Miami even they fumbled the ball when they
right,
should have been kneeling it
right.
and lost the game.
yeah, anything can happen, and especially do or die. You have to use exhaust all efforts, and whatever happens, happens. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Because man, it's literally like you're saying, like literally anything could happen. Now, is it like likely that like you're down 10 and you manage to go score a touchdown, recover an onside kick, and then kick another field goal or score a touchdown to win the game? Like, no, it's not very likely. It's very, very improbable, but it's not impossible.
It was like
And
an
I've seen
8-point
stranger
game,
things
so
happen in
yeah, it was like an
sports.
8-point
Yeah,
game. You didn't have to. I mean,
Yeah.
right.
nothing
Yeah. So
crazy, but yeah, you're right. They do. If you're down 10 and you have the ball with 53 seconds left, you're gonna be Are you supposed to say, nah? What are the chances? Let's just stay
right.
healthy,
Yeah.
and you're gonna
Just
go
gonna
for
mail
it.
it in.
Yeah.
Like, no, I totally agree. It's the playoffs. You should be doing everything in your power. You should burn every time out. You should
Mm-hmm.
use every challenge if that's an issue. Like you should. I mean, you should be doing everything in your power to try and win. I mean, I almost want to say like, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. You know, like just
Yeah.
whatever it takes, man. Like it's the playoffs. You know, sell out. Like just everything you got. You know,
The
it's
49ers are
crazy.
going to
It's
move
crazy.
on after beating the Packers. Pretty good game. I mean, it was a really close game. It seemed like I don't know, it seemed like it should have been, to me anyways. It wasn't as close as the 3 points. But, I mean, Love had a good game outside of that last interception. He seemed like, because he made those throws against the Cowboys, that maybe he got a little bit of false confidence where he could just make any throw. But, I mean, he had a good game regardless.
Brett Favre. He had a good game. That was actually I thoroughly enjoyed that game. The way they responded, uh, after Debo got hurt, and it showed a lot for Brock Purdy to go out there and second half and kind of bounce back like that. Because I personally always have thought about him as just like, oh, he just has a lot of talent and things like that. But he went out there, he made the throws. He's doing what he's supposed to do, and I think they probably were just kind of, they had the week off. They were probably just kind of, it's the Packers, and the Packers came out there and put it on them, just like
Yeah.
like Cowboys, but the 49ers responded. But it was a good game. I feel like they'll be more ready next week, going against Detroit.
Yeah, I would not sleep on Detroit, for sure.
No, that man, I really enjoyed that Green Bay 49ers game. To be honest, I was hoping for an upset. I was hoping that Green Bay was actually going to come out on top. I feel like it would have made me feel a little bit better about that
Yeah.
loss. The Cowboys just took to them too. But I mean, it was a really good like competitive game. And to be honest, I really thought Green Bay was going to take it. Brock Purdy was not playing very well in that first half, but man, the grit, like he really came back in that second half and just kept it going. I was really impressed, just the tenacity of him and his teammates to like just really stay with it. Like they stuck to their game plan. They didn't panic. They just kept fighting.
That's good.
And I mean, honestly, I mean, I kind of like you were saying, Ashton. I mean, I know it's a 3 point game, 21-24, but it just didn't necessarily feel that way. It felt like there in the second half, the 49ers really kind of started to secure their win and
Yeah.
they were ready to move on to the championship. So I'm really excited to watch Detroit and San Francisco. I think it could be anyone's game. I'm really pulling for Detroit in that one. But I mean, San Francisco's no slouch. They're not going to lay down for anybody, and Detroit won't either. So I mean, this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun this weekend.
Yeah, and if the 49ers move on, maybe we get a little bit of controversy with the Super Bowl logo.
Oh, the colors. Yeah, I
The
saw that.
colors,
Yeah,
yeah.
the whole conspiracy theory. Yeah, man, that's so funny to me.
Yeah, we may talk about that coming up here next week, if it's indeed the Chiefs. I mean the
Be the Ravens.
the Ravens and the 49ers.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Ravens, they beat the Texans. Houston was not really ever in it, losing 34-10. I know it was a
10-10.
one score. It was a one score game later in the game, but it just didn't seem that
Wasn't it
close.
10-10 at like halftime or something?
Yeah. Just later in the game, they kind of ran away with it, but
Yeah, and then that was it.
yeah, it seemed like Stroud was really struggling just to keep it that close. But I mean, Baltimore had the bye week, and then you have this Houston team coming in and playing excellent, and everyone was kind of on upset watch, thinking, who knows, how teams slack off over the bye week, similar to how the 49ers came off, and Houston, a team who did win that division until the last week, just kind of snuck in there. I don't think they even clinched a playoff spot till week 17 maybe. But the Ravens get it done. I mean, just like they've been doing, I'd say most of the year, at least the second half of the year. We've been thinking the Ravens are kind of the team in the AFC.
Definitely. Yeah, they've been the best
Yeah, I
team
mean,
for probably like 10 weeks or so. I
Yeah.
know it started with Buffalo. They had a lot of hype coming in, and then the Chiefs always have their hype, but I feel like they kind of solidified it. After a few big wins, and then they really solidified it when they beat the 49ers, and then they played Philly. I didn't play. But they had some pretty big wins, and
Yeah, they beat the Rams
the Raiders-
on the last punt return.
yeah. So
Yeah.
they've solidified themselves, and their defense is insane. They have some very fast linebackers, Patrick Queen and Raquan Smith. So uh, it's hard to run the ball against them. It's hard to throw against them. So uh, you know they have the work cut out for them.
No, it definitely seemed like Houston went into this game, and I mean, honestly, it was the same thing with Green Bay. Like just having this incredible performance from your young quarterback going into these games, and honestly, I think the expectations were just a little too high for Stroud or for Love to kind of continue to perform at that level,
Yeah.
especially like in the playoffs against these premier teams and everything. But going into it and everything, man, if it just did not feel like in that second half Baltimore hit another gear because it
Yeah.
just felt like Houston couldn't keep up anymore. And I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I feel like that's kind of Baltimore's thing. Like they're a fast team.
They're
I mean,
fast.
and it's a huge key behind using Lamar Jackson's full potential under center. I mean, they're fast. They're a fast team. They've got fast receivers. They've got fast running backs. They've got a fast quarterback. Like, I mean, and Houston just could not keep up. And honestly, it almost felt like Stroud was trying to keep up and he was exhausted. Like he couldn't do it. And at that point, you think slower, you react slower, and you just
Yeah.
kind of get tore up, and then the game gets away from you. It's like quicksand, really. I mean, just next thing you know, you're in over your head and you just can't keep up, can't breathe. So I mean, I feel like this game went exactly the way I expected it to. Going into halftime 10-10 blew
Yeah.
my mind from I
Yeah.
mean,
Maybe it's a
I did
cold
not think the
game.
game was
Maybe
going to be.
it's slow
Yeah,
starting teams. They'd been off for
yeah.
a couple of weeks. They
Yeah.
won't
But
tell
I mean,
you
that was pretty much
that's
it. It was
a viable reason to start off slow, but it happens. You
oh
see
for
it
sure.
for
And I
that
mean,
bye
on top
week.
of that, I mean, Baltimore kind of like being the team that they are, it almost feels like they intentionally start a little slower so they
Yeah.
can finish a little faster. And I mean, you just have to keep an eye out for that. I mean, it's going to make Baltimore plenty formidable this next week against Kansas City.
Great
Not
game.
necessarily rooting for Kansas City to win, but I mean, we're talking about two pretty different offenses here. I
Yeah.
mean, what Kansas City's doing and what Baltimore's doing. I mean,
Well,
it's going to be a good game. It'll be fun.
on that note, we've kind of hinted who we think might win certain games, but we have Ravens, Chiefs, Niners, Lions. Dan, let's start with you. Who is going to play in the Super Bowl?
Who's going to play in the Super Bowl, or who do I want to
Who's
win?
going to? I mean, both. You can tell who do you want, and then who do you think's going to go? I
Honestly,
assume they're
I think
different.
I think it's going to be about the same for me. I'm hoping Detroit can go and upset San Francisco. I think Baltimore's the team to beat in the AFC. So, and I'd also like to see Kansas City just get upset. But that's what I'm rooting for. That's what I think it'll be. I think it's going to be Detroit, Baltimore, Las Vegas
Man, Detroit,
showdown. I mean, I would love to see Detroit make it to their
that's
first Super Bowl.
the one everyone wants.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I have. I want that matchup. I do have the Chiefs and the 49ers having a rematch from a couple years ago. I just think the Chiefs' overall experience, Pat Mahomes' experience, will
Yeah.
take over. They also have fast linebackers. Willie Gay, um, he's gonna spy. They have, I mean, their secondary is not bad. Um, they have Chris Jones up front. So I feel like defensively they match well with Baltimore. Um, and then it'll just be Pat Mahomes versus Baltimore's defense, and I'm excited to see Travis Kelce go up against those linebackers to see how I don't want to say how he responds because he's a multi-time Super Bowl champion, but um just how that matchup will play out because he's a quick one of the best tight ends ever against Roquan Smith, probably defensive player of the year candidate. So I'm definitely excited to see that game. I feel like the winner of that game will probably ultimately win the Super Bowl. So um I have those two.
If my picks end up going through, it's going to piss a lot of people off, especially the ones who don't like seeing cutaways to Taylor Swift's Sweet. But in Vegas, there's going to be 2 stars in the suites. On both sides, it's going to be Taylor Swift and Eminem. Because I have Detroit and Kansas City. I assume Eminem will be there. I mean, he's a huge Lions fan. Why wouldn't he be there?
Oh yeah, why would?
And that's all they're gonna keep painting to their reactions every time, especially if Kelsey scores a touchdown.
Mhm.
I think as much as the Chiefs have struggled this year, I think they're running with momentum right now. One that Baltimore's not used to.
They're like the Warriors.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean they really are, and I mean I just said this earlier, but it's one of those things like when you're playing this well at this level, Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelsey, the Chiefs kind of as a whole and everything. I mean you draw as many fans as you do haters, and I'm
For
sure
sure.
I'm just a hater for the sake of being a hater. You know, like I have no real reason
I
to
can
root
see
against these
where
guys, but
Kelsey.
man, I feel like I'm tired of Kansas City and I'm ready to see
I can
somebody
see
else.
with all
But
the
they are
Kelsey
good, man.
brothers
You can't
stuff
deny it.
where they were,
I
at the
love the Kelsey
draft.
brothers. They're
Travis Kelsey, I can see getting on a lot of people's nerves. How crazy it is, when they had the draft in Kansas City and he was presenting one of the draft picks and he's just talking. I don't personally dislike him, so it didn't really bother me. But I can see when you're annoyed. I got that way with like Rob Gronkowski. Like
Yeah.
sometimes he'd be crazy, and I like Robert Gronkowski now,
Yeah.
as an analyst, but just when the Patriots are always winning and he's kind of really flamboyant and crazy, and
Yeah.
I can
man.
see
What's really
them
funny
get
about it?
on his nerve, and because Patrick Mahomes is kind of like Tom Brady in a sense that Tom Brady doesn't specifically do anything that pisses people off that much, or didn't.
No,
Yeah, he
Travis
got a lot of
Kelsey's got this
calls.
like little brother vibe.
Yeah,
You know, like that's what it is. He feels like he's your little brother, and you're like, God, it's not that I don't like you, but you're like annoying. You
yeah,
know, like just cut it out.
and then
Especially
like
when it,
Mahomes hadn't done a lot. Except get calls for him, just kind of like Tom Brady, and then win a few Super Bowls.
I watch. He talks a little trash. I think it's just his voice. You see him everywhere. He's on the. They're both on the State Farm commercials, and you know.
And I think Patrick Mahomes is more his brother and his wife, which have been really low key this year. I think
I think
Patrick
that
talked to
casts a
them.
big shadow,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
and he
Patrick
took care of
talked to
that.
him
It seemed
like, "Hey
like, yeah.
guys, you gotta," because they were like on the
Oh,
sideline
his brother's
talking.
not on the sideline anymore.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
his
it's
wife's only down there to like give him a kiss, and she goes
yeah. She
right
goes
back.
hangs out with Taylor Swift and yeah. So
So
that's
I mean, I
yeah.
think he
Let's not.
definitely had the conversation. But
Yeah. Oh yeah. They had to. It was getting to be a bit much. I mean, nobody's gonna hate on them, but they're gonna definitely hate on Patrick for it. So yeah, next week we'll see who's in the Super Bowl. We will make our picks then, and then if it's 49ers Ravens, I guess we can kind of read up on the curse or not the curse, but the how it's rigged maybe or whatever about the Super Bowl
yeah, the
colors or the
conspiracy
logos and
theory of the
conspiracy
NFL being
theories. Yeah, because
script.
it's been like
3 years, 4 years.
7
The
years. I thought it was
last
like 6
three
or 7,
Super
3
Bowls, I think
at
they've said,
least.
or
And I know they
yeah,
changed the
something like that.
colors.
It could be more.
Yeah, we'll look into it and get all the information if that's how it turns out.
Right. Yeah.
But thank you for listening to this episode. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us. Until next time, I'm Ashton with Dan and Chris. See you guys later.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.